And we're officially live here with a special episode of the Go Team. We have myself, Daniel, with Zombie Bob here today with special guest Breiden Fehoko. Thank you for joining
Like,
us this morning.
where are they?
Steve over here doing the Chinese Bandits bow.
No, well, Chinese
Yeah,
bandits, but you're
I'm
not
tying
allowed
it
to say
together.
China. But I was thinking more Wayne's World. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
I,
But
I,
both
I
work.
thought I thought you guys were doing the whole the LSU third down when the student
Yeah,
sections. Dun, dun, dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah.
dun.
Yeah,
Correct.
that originated with the Chinese Bandits in
Okay,
Back
the
in
did not know that.
50s.
'58. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did
And
not know
so,
that.
Braden, first question I got for you: what you been up to now that you're done with training camp right now?
Ooh, man, it's the life of a free agent, and basically, being at home, enjoying time with family.
Hmm.
6 years in the NFL at this point, most teams already know what they kind of are getting out of you, and so with my situation, it's more of if a player, in my similar repertoire and my similar skill set goes down on the team, then I'm kind of the guy that gets that call, and so at this point in my career, I kind of understand that. And it's helped me stay, ready and stay, up to date, playing this long in the league. I don't even, I kind of expected myself to, have a career in the NFL, but I don't think a lot of people from the outside looking in, expected me to last this long. And, that's just due to staying ready. But, yeah, being back from training camp was fun. It was awesome to be back out there in Pittsburgh. And, for now, it's just being a dad and working out and, just getting to push out more content for football for the fans on X, not Twitter anymore,
Uh,
X.
It'll always
well,
be Twitter to me.
yeah, it's
Same,
always.
likewise.
Well, especially when I got the Twitter tattoo, like now you can't change it to X. I get accused, Braden, of being on my phone too much, but like Twitter is just one-stop shopping. Like everything you need to know is right there. And Daniel will laugh at me for this, but when my teams win, I cannot absorb enough content saying, Zombie, you're so smart for being a fan of this team. And like, oh yeah, when LSU scores the touchdown and gets the first down, I have 12 people telling me, sports reporters and podcasters and such saying, hey, first down Tigers, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm always on there. But again, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and getting on with us. We're just a couple of guys.
Of
We
course.
do this for fun and everything. But Daniel, when I first reached out to Braden and said, hey, like, would you consider and all, at least I brought my receipts, right? And Braden, we were looking at the date, and it's really scary, and it kind of segues into a question I have for you. Um, you were at a signing event, an autograph signing event, like
Mm-hmm.
March 6th, 2020 in
Mm-hmm.
Baton Rouge. And I've said to you, like, I'm old, man. Like I mentioned, the first game I really, really remember is LSU beating Rice 77-0 in 1977. LSU's wide receiver Carlos Carson caught 5 touchdown passes in that game. And that's the gold standard, unfortunately, Braden, that I have. So when LSU's playing New Mexico or Louisiana Tech, if they don't score 77 points, like I'm honestly so crazed, I walk out of the stadium slightly aggravated. I'm like, oh my God, like what are they doing or whatever. But we met you right before really the world shut down. So I got an autograph
We
helmet
did.
from you. I got the autograph photo of you. And by like looking at it in hindsight, March 6th, 2020, and then just a few weeks later, everything shut down with
It's
COVID. But I
crazy.
have your sweatshirt as well, the counted out
The counted
sweatshirt
out.
with
Yes,
you on the
sir.
front. But
Mm-hmm.
then talk about that and the difficulties of coming off of a national championship team in COVID with no opportunities. I mean, you're on tape,
Mm-hmm.
and everything, but yet you didn't really have an opportunity. None of them had an opportunity to showcase. But yet here you are 6 years later, a 6-year veteran of the NFL.
Man, that's crazy to think about, you know, when we go back to that time in 2020, and it's crazy how you mentioned March 6th, and then literally a few weeks later,
Right.
there was a few COVID cases. It kind of dawned upon the national media, and then I don't think anybody was really like thinking nothing of it until it was like the world shut down, you
Right.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was crazy because I remember LSU, we played in the national championship that year, so our season was longer than everybody else. And so our pro day was going to be April 2nd or April 4th, I believe,
Uh-huh.
one of the last pro days in college football. For me, they had already gave out they already had a combine in February. I didn't get invited, and so I had that chip on my shoulder. So I always felt like I should have been there. And then I had about 7 to 8 32 visits set up for NFL teams. And so even though I didn't go to the combine, even though I didn't get an invite to the Senior Bowl, I was very spot on and sure about like, okay, I'm going to get with these teams on the 32 visits and I'm going to be able to impress them that way, in the film room with how I hold myself and all that. And then slowly by slowly, one thing got canceled after the other. The visits got canceled. The world shut down, and then pro day got canceled. And then next thing you know, I'm just sitting at home and they're talking about doing the draft virtually. And I'm sitting here with my agent and I'm like, man, what's going on? Like, I haven't been able to, these teams haven't been able to see me in person. I've played football, I'm on film, but for the most part, like, what are we doing? And so there's a lot of nervousness going into it.
Sure.
And, it's crazy when I think back to draft day and all the teams that have reached out to me beforehand and all the teams that reached out to me during the draft. And this is one of the most nerve-wracking things is when you're watching the draft and you get a call on your phone from a team and you automatically think that I'm about to get drafted. And so, I'm sitting here watching the draft with my wife and we're in Baton Rouge and I get calls and, one of them's a New York number, one of them's a Seattle number. And so the first call I got was a New York number in like the 5th round. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, like this is it. I get a call. It's the defensive coordinator. And he's like, Breiden, how you doing, man? I'm like, oh, coach, I'm good. Mind you, I've been talking to him, pre-draft. And so I have a
Sure.
pretty good relationship with the Giants. And, he's like, look, man, I know you're sitting tight. He's like, I just talked with my defensive line coach and the GM and the head coach, man. We're going to try to get you drafted here in one of these future picks. And so he's like, we'll just hold tight. And I'm thinking, okay, like, am I going to get drafted by the Giants? 3 Giants picks goes by. None of them are my name.
Oh, man.
And
Right.
so the Seahawks end up calling, same thing. But the Seahawks were the first team that was like, hey, we may not expend a draft pick on you strictly because we don't have any information on you. And this was the thing for multiple teams with me. We don't have any information on you, your health, all that kind of stuff. We didn't have any visits, but we want to sign you as a priority free agent. And they offered some good money. The Cardinals offered a lot more money. And the funny thing is, the Chargers called me twice during the draft. The Chargers called me once in the 6th round, and they wanted to secure a deal then. And the younger me was so emotional in the process. I told him, I was like, no. I told my agent, I said, no, tell him no, I'm getting drafted.
Uh-huh.
And so they took that guaranteed money and they went to go find another free agent in the 6th round, gave it to him. And then lo and behold, in the 7th round, towards the end of the draft, the Chargers called back again. They say, hey, Breiden, we know it's a tough process. We know everybody wants to get drafted. And they made a promise. They said, man, you can look at our track record with the Chargers. We've given guys every opportunity to shine, every opportunity to come in and play, no matter if you're drafted, no matter if you're undrafted. Our track record speaks for itself. And, I went in, played 3 great years with the Chargers. And the funniest thing about that is my emotions probably costed me like $75,000 on draft day. Just turning down,
Right.
undrafted guaranteed money because of, me thinking I was going to get drafted. But everything works out for a reason, man.
Right.
I felt I made the right decision because, I've been 6 years in the NFL as an undrafted guy with no pro day, no Senior Bowl, no
Right.
combine, and I've been able to make something shake every year in the NFL. And so
Right.
that's been my journey, man. That's
Yeah.
just a quick little synopsis of it, and I'm forever grateful for every step of the way.
No, absolutely. Well, not only fighting through the odds as an undrafted free agent, but like you said, through COVID, when there was nothing there for you to be able to showcase, everything that was already on tape and all. But all right, so but Braden, now we're going to segue a little bit. But talking about tape, right? Think back to your freshman year at Texas Tech.
Okay,
You had an interception
West Virginia.
against West Virginia. My main question: how many return yards did we get?
I think we got negative return yards on that one because I was diving backwards to the ball, and so if you ever saw the clip,
we're gonna have to find it.
The quarterback, he throws it over the middle. One of the DBs hits it off of his hand. The ball bounces in the air, and I have to run back. It's probably one of the most athletic things I've ever done in my career. I don't even think I could do that anymore. But I run and I do a full layout with my body, and I'm cradling it as if like a
We
baby's
definitely have to
falling,
find that clip, right?
like a baby's falling down out
Uh-huh.
of a burning building, and I just
Right.
like brace the ball into my hands, and I like just slowly tuck it under me, and I actually gain negative yards, but you know what? On the stat sheet, it shows an interception, and so
Absolutely.
I'll be
That's
able to show
awesome.
my son that one day and tell him like once upon a time, Dad was kind of athletic, believe it or not.
Yeah, kind of. Again, I'll
That's
refer back to that picture that you have
Uh,
from earlier this year
yep.
on Twitter when
Hmm.
you just
that
completely ripped.
that's my biggest regret of my high school football career. I was an offensive lineman, and there was
Hmm.
one pass that deflected off of a receiver's face mask and came
Oh,
right towards me.
chance for glory.
Yes, and I was thinking about the move I was going to make. When I like the ball, it felt like it was in the air for 10 seconds, and I was thinking, okay, like catch it and juke to your left right away. But I didn't dive for it, so it went right off my fingertips. And my
That's
biggest
too funny.
regret, you should have dove for it.
Right.
One of the funniest things whenever, with linemen especially, linemen always feel like they should be skill players, and
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter what level of football you play, whether it's high school, college, or NFL. You get around the big boys, all of them feel like they should be playing receiver, should be playing quarterback, running back. It's the funniest thing. And if you just be around them, like they really think that and especially I'm guilty of this as well. We all think we're athletes and we all think we could win the Heisman, be the next Travis Hunter. It's the most hilarious thing I've seen in sports.
That is too
Absolutely.
funny. Absolutely. All right. So then, sticking with from when you went your freshman year, your sophomore year at Texas Tech, then you decide to make the transfer. You come over, you red shirt. At the end of 18, you got banged up in the Alabama game, and you
Hmm.
missed the rest of the season there. But then you announced that you were coming back for your senior season, 2019. My question, Braden, is like, when did y'all know, like, what y'all had
Mm.
in that 2019? Like, when did it everything like you look around
Yep.
and it's like, wow.
That I think people have told this story a lot, but it was like the spring when Joe Burrow and Patrick Queen got into it in spring
Uh-huh.
practice. I think we knew we had something when usually like defense always, especially at LSU, man, we always dominate the offense in training camp and spring ball. Like everybody knows that,
Mhm.
and this spring ball was different because like Joe Brady just came in, and so like they were walking around with a ton of swag and a little bit of arrogance, and it kind of pissed us off a little bit because Joe Brady and Mickey Joseph and Steve Ensminger, every time we get warmed up, the coaches always split sides. So the defensive coaches will always go to the offensive side, dap them up, see what's up.
Mhm.
The offensive coaches will always come to our side. It's all about energy, clapping.
Sure.
And Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger are coming to us, and they're talking a lot of crap, and it's every single day. And I remember Joe coming over there, Joe Brady, and he's like 9-1. We're gonna get your fat butt running today. Like we're gonna find out about you today, and it's crazy. And I'm just like, what? Like usually we're
Right.
talking smack to them, and it's that's when we kind of knew, like, man, we got some on our hands. And then going to that day, that fight when Patrick Queen had kind of did that late hit on Joe,
Mhm.
like usually every like the old line's first to like get in on it. Like as soon as Pat did that, like Joe was throwing blows at Pat, like and that's the thing. And then usually Coach O was like, hey, you know what, we're gonna move to the next period. Joe's like, nah, keep running this period. And the offense, I kid you not, like ran the show on us all day, and Joe was talking the most smack. I was so sick of hearing his voice all day that day at practice. Like, and they were just rubbing it in our face. They were all
Uh-huh.
the celebrations you saw during the season. They were practicing on us in practice. They were doing the gritty and all this, and they were just laughing, celebrating. All their coaches were, and it was in hindsight, I probably hated it, and the defense hated it, and Aranda was like furious that day at all of us. But that's when I knew, Steve, that we had something special. And
Mhm.
it wasn't just because of everybody was returning, or we got Joe Brady, we got this, but we had a team that we returned a lot of starters from the previous year in 2018, and we knew what the goal was and we knew what we wanted to do. In 2018, we were close, but we weren't there yet.
Right.
That Texas A&M game still stings to me. I
Yeah.
still think, the refs
Yeah.
blew that game for us. I thought Kellen Mond was down, Um, and so there were multiple times that year where you could see the glimpses of greatness, but then it didn't click for me until spring of 2019. And then, I mean, obviously, we went out against Georgia Southern, and
Right.
our offense put up like 400 yards. I'm like, oh snap, we're legit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's Georgia Southern. Like LSU is out here throwing the rock 30, 40 times a game. All right, let's
Right.
play some defense and let's go get a
Right.
natty.
I remember that first drive against Georgia Southern, and I'm like, this is different.
Yeah.
Different. It felt like this isn't. I remember too. We get out there against Georgia Southern. We're watching from the sideline, and we're like, are we gonna get under center? Like we saw it in practice. Like they were going no huddle, they were going tempo against us, throwing the ball. But part of me was like watching the game and was like, all right, is there gonna come a time where we're gonna get under center, run the rock, get in 22 personnel? And it was none of that. It was we're gonna make our athletes get in space, give them room to work with, and let them showcase their abilities.
Yeah. And when the game was on the line against Texas the following week, that was my question. When the war was the offense going to get tight when the game was on the line, and it was no, we're going to go
Man,
score.
that third down play. What I think when I think about it, Daniel, is like most college teams in America would have probably just ran the ball, punted it, and let their defense play.
Yeah.
Like the guts we had to throw a dagger in the middle to Justin Jefferson with Joe B is like it's amazing for me to be like, man, I think back to certain moments that year where we could have played conservative football, but we were playing to win instead of playing not to lose. And I think that was the difference that year. When I look back to it, is we were just trying to go and get wins. Like we didn't care what the score was. We didn't care who we were playing. We weren't going to play conservative. We were going to empty the clip, and that was going to be that determination of the outcome every week.
But it wasn't like the defense was a liability in 2019.
No.
It's not like, oh, well, we've got to be aggressive on offense. Because if you
Mhm.
look at the people that you had on that 2019 defense,
Mhm.
just amazing. But talking to the 2019 defense, talk about just your journey through, college and then into the NFL. You were obviously home in Hawaii, but you went at a very young age to a
Mhm.
football camp at the University of Hawaii.
Yes.
And lo and behold, Dave Aranda was the DC there. And then all these years later, here you are playing for him on a national championship team. And then I don't know who did LSU, if anyone had on staff or connected with the Chargers, but of course Carl Dunbar. Well, not reunite, but Tigers reunite with Pittsburgh. But how much is that prevalent throughout the college and NFL
Well,
ranks? It's a small world.
well, with the way things are now in the coaching game in football, you'll hear this all the time from players and coaches. It's all about who you know. And for me, it's funny that when I was transferring from Texas Tech, and I tell this story all the time. I originally wanted to go to the Pac-12. I wanted to go back, closer to home, and that was stay in the West Coast. But all my offers and scholarships came from SEC schools: LSU, Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss. Like those were my options, and so it was a little different for me. And when Aranda had hit me up, man, he was one of the first coaches that used to recruit me when I was a kid, and he'll tell you the same thing. Like when I was sixth grade, I was going to the University of Hawaii camps, and Aranda was there, and that was kind of the first relationship. And the reason we developed that relationship, funny story, is Aranda started off at Texas Tech, his coaching career.
Right.
My brother Sam was playing
Right.
at Texas Tech at the time. Aranda was at the University of Hawaii, and so that's how we developed the relationship of, Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
There was another coach by the name of Mike Smith who spent his time at the University of Hawaii working with the defensive line. He played linebacker for Texas Tech, ended up playing for the Patriots and Baltimore Ravens for multiple years. Backed up Ray Lewis, was his guy. He was a big reason why I went to Texas Tech. Now, fast forward, I'm transferring. Coming out of high school, I really loved USC. I was a huge USC fan. I grew up loving watching Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart,
Right.
Lendale White, all these guys. I
Yeah.
could go on and on.
Yeah.
Coach O recruited me my junior year in high school. I still have his. I wish I still had his. It was a voicemail he left, that same old raspy voice he has now. That Ed will talk to you to. He'll say the first two words, and you don't even understand the last 15 words he's saying, right? But it's like a baby. You don't know what they're saying, but you know what they're saying, and they get the message across. But he loved me. He wanted me at USC really bad, and we kind of had that early relationship there. They let go Ed. USC doesn't honor my scholarship when the new staff comes in. And, long story short, Aranda goes to Ed when I'm transferring, is like, man, I think we can get this kid. And Aranda's and Ed's like, who is he? He's like, oh, Breiden Fehoko, all Big 12 kid, started every game, Texas Tech. I recruited him in Hawaii. And Ed goes, I know Fehoko. I used to recruit that kid. And, they bring me in for a visit. And he gives me this big hug, and he's got me like 10 pounds of crawfish in my hotel room. My hotel room smells like king cake and crawfish. One of the best experiences though in my life. Like just the vibe and the energy and just what it was to be around there, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and ended up winning a national championship. So I can sit here and honestly say it was the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I first reached out to you about, possibly appearing with Daniel and I said to you, in all honesty, you're my favorite LSU player of all time. And then a lot of that just is with your relationship with your family and
Thank you.
that interconnection. And it really resonated with me, Braden. Like Daniel and I are brothers, and, our dad had season tickets. His dad had season tickets. So like, that's what we grew up with,
Yes.
is that family connection, and then the family and friends that went to the games and tailgated with you and everything. But especially seeing you tear up on your senior day when your family did the Hoka for you, it just, like, without question, my favorite LSU player of all time, because of that. Your relationship with your family and their love and devotion to you
Thank you.
just reminded me of my relationship with my dad, and the instilling of on Saturday it's LSU football, and you just bleed purple and gold. So
Appreciate you, Steve. That means
we
a lot.
really no,
There's a lot of good.
absolutely.
There's a lot of great LSU players that have come through LSU now, but I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah. But Daniel and I were talking about that before you joined us, because of course we were late getting you the email. But like the family Mount Rushmore of LSU football, to me, it's your mom and dad, and it's Joe Burrow's parents, because like, that's all you saw. I mean, they were as big a part of those teams as you guys were, because y'all are doing everything on the field. The camera's instantly going to them. And I sent you one a picture of your dad, a screenshot of your dad. It's I don't know if
I
it's a
think that was
Chester
the
or
Ole
Gill,
Miss. I think that was the Ole Miss game.
but was that your 18 or 19?
That would have been
18,
18.
18,
18. But it was
18. Yep.
after the Georgia game, because was the Georgia game your 18 year, your junior
Georgia
year?
was 18. Yep. 2018.
But that was the first time your dad did that for you.
Yes, that was the
So then
first
it went
time. It
viral
went
and
viral.
everything. So then he's, now on the thing. So my now fiance,
Congratulations.
who, thank you, but she and I, Braden, met in high school in May of 1984, right? And then all these years later,
How
what's
about
old is
that?
new again. So then she's watching the game, and then your dad, the camera cuts to your dad. He's doing his thing. Her daughter is directly behind your dad.
Was that the picture you showed me with the
That's the
Yeah,
picture. So she's in the gold,
the
but
gold.
she's with a young man that she's not supposed to be with. That,
Mm,
like, oh, he broke her heart, and like, never again. And lo and behold, on national TV, and say for all for all time on Twitter, there's Haley right behind your dad, busted in giant screen TV and whatnot. Now, but like, Daniel and I have been on the field at LSU when in '97. I think you were what, 1 or 2 years old in
one.
'97,
One.
when LSU upset number one Steve Spurrier in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The whole stadium stormed the field and whatnot. Daniel, have we been on since then? Have you been
I
on that?
have,
Okay,
because
but oh yeah. What, an Alabama game in 20?
well, no, because Braden, in a previous life, I was a high school football coach. I joke, in a previous life. So, and I actually coached two of Orgeron's sons.
Was it the
And so,
twins?
actually, fun fact, not Cody, because Cody played tennis for his first 3 years of high school, because he was a tennis star. So Tyler and Parker,
Spots or Tyler? Yeah,
yeah,
we call them Spot. But yeah,
yeah,
Parker
spots,
and Spots. That's cool.
yeah.
Oh,
And
no
so
way,
I
no
was
way, no
able to
way.
get some access pregame because of,
How about that? How about
yeah.
that?
That Ole
But
Miss game in 18, I was on the field. Fun fact.
okay,
How
but
about that?
but like, so for us, that's like, oh my God, like, anyone that, all 7 people that listen to our podcast, all 50 people that know us, yeah, every one of us would cut off a body part to run onto the field between the band at the beginning of a game. But like, I'm going to ask you what that's like, but you have such a unique upbringing and that you are on the field for the University of Hawaii with your family and with your dad. And so it must be like so blasé, like, okay, get ready to get to work, whatever. Whereas, like I said, like, what body part do you want me to cut off to have that opportunity? You know?
For me, it's still surreal every time I get to do it, whether it's in Death Valley, whether it's in Pittsburgh or with the Chargers at SoFi. Um, you when you run out that stadium, man, and you see the going band from Tigerland, they're like it's you can't mimic that. Like you said, what part of my body do I need to cut off? And I've been very fortunate, with my dad working with the University of Hawaii early on in my life. I've been very fortunate to be thrusted into positions of stardom, I should say. And I never take it for granted, the moments and opportunities I get to experience these things. I was with a little league team that I go and help out every now and then over here in my neighborhood. And one of the questions from one of the kids was, how does it feel to run out into a stadium of 100,000 screaming fans? And I said, man, it never gets old. It's one of the best feelings in the world. And I wish everybody here can experience that. I never take it for granted. And I said, you know what? The reason I appreciate it and the reason I love it is because through 100,000 screaming fans, I feel like I can hear my parents and I see my parents and I see the smile on their face. And that's what makes it worth it for me. You know, it's different. Everybody, falls into the momentum and, the loud screaming and the roaring and buying in the moment, which is cool. But for me, the coolest part of 100,000 screaming fans is seeing my family there, seeing them smile, seeing them appreciate it. And that's what makes the whole process and journey and all the hard work and all the summer workouts with Tommy Moffitt where we're fighting and we're scratching and clawing,
Right.
sweating and, all that kind of stuff. That's what makes everything so worth it in the end.
Right. All right, Braden, I think you're up against
Yeah.
a clock or whatever. One last question. What are your
Cool.
thoughts on this year's version
I was hoping you'd ask that earlier because
after that performance at Clemson?
I was hoping you'd ask that earlier because I've me, I'm always going to be thorough and I'm always going to be upfront about LSU and going into the season, I was a little rough on Brian Kelly, and I think a lot of the fans felt the same way. Like, Brian, you're in a space, you're at a school where you can pull better recruits than when you were at Notre Dame, so it's time to start seeing better wins. And he's I don't know if he's still the most winningest coach in college football right now. I believe he is. I think that's a stat.
Yeah, I think he is.
And for me, the amount of money they paid Brian Kelly, I was so upfront before the season started that it's time to start doing it. It's time to start showing it, right? Because Ed Owen, year 3, won himself a national championship, and that's just point blank. Like, we got it done, and it didn't matter what happened. He may have got fired 2 years later or whatever. He fell off, but we won. And that's expected in Baton Rouge. Like, I understand, right? We it's hard to compete with the Georgias and the Alabamas of what they're bringing in every year, but don't get it twisted, man. There's athletes in Louisiana, and the homegrown talent there should be kept at all means necessary. And so that win against Clemson, kind of showed me that he's taking the next step. And really, what more I appreciated about that was his post game presser on Monday, this past week, when he threw a little jab at Dabo. Like, I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Like, BK, talk your crap, because this is LSU. Like, we're not here to be soft on people. We're here to, like, take names, put up wins in the win column, and keep it moving. Like,
Right.
you don't have to be the Mr. Nice Guy. You don't have to give the right answer to the media. And I appreciated him for that answer he gave to the media about Dabo Sweeney. Was I don't know if he watched the same second half we did. He probably didn't want to. I love that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
the pettiness, cool. You know what? Because your players are going to see that. They're going to want to play harder for you.
Right.
And I'm excited. SEC play hasn't started yet. I'm always more critical on SEC play than anything else. And I think it starts this week. I think you got to go route Louisiana Tech. Don't even start slow.
Right.
Put up 50 points on them. Get your starters out by the second quarter. Like, it's out of conference play. You're playing a smaller school. That's like the standard. All your your freshmen, your walk-ons, they should be playing by the third quarter this weekend. And moving forward, they got to keep the momentum rolling. And I'm expecting at the very least, a playoff appearance this year. At the very least.
It has to. But I mean, you mentioned Coach O winning in his third year, but prior to that, Les Miles won in his third year. And prior to that, the greatest of all time, Saban won in his third year. So, like, But then Braden, like, and I know you got to get going, but like Brian
Or
Kelly said, Brian Kelly said, oh, well, previously in camp, it was iron going against butter in camp instead of this year being iron versus iron. But like you just kind of alluded to that, like, well, whose fault is that? Like, why do you have butter on your roster at LSU? I mean, I understand what he took over, with Coach O falling off and COVID and all that, and what we had stocked at that point. But like, I was like you said, this is LSU. You shouldn't have butter on your roster.
it's a great point, Steve. And for me, when I look at it and I see interviews like that, that pisses me off,
Right.
because it's an identity thing, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to have the most talented guys. Shoot, if you look at our roster compared to Alabama's roster, yeah, we had more guys get drafted, but like the 5 stars, the number one recruits in the nation, like Alabama had all that. Georgia the
Mm-hmm.
year prior, they had all that. Justin Fields, from all these guys, like they had
Right.
it.
Right.
But what set us apart was there was a mentality of when you stepped into Death Valley, we were going to make it hurt for you, and it was going to be a hard fought game, and that's what I appreciate about Coach O the most is, man, he coached us hard. Like Steve Daniel, he coached us hard. I got scars to this day about that man's voice in my head, but it it made us so much better as a team
Mhm.
that those days when Ed was coaching, the crap out of us, and it was like "Da-da-da-da-da," and he's just rumbling out there. Those are the moments we came together and was like, man, forget this. Like, we're gonna play hard. I'm gonna play for you. Like, I'd look next to me was Ed Alexander. I'd look to my left and it was, Caleb on Chason or Mike Divinity, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
play for you. Behind me
Right.
was Devin White, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna play for you.
Right.
And so those were the things that helped us out. And when you say iron on butter, I think that's BS. You know, I think every coach has dealt with clay, and it's up to you how to mold it how you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same process as if you get a 5 star and he turned into a bus. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
turn into a bus overnight because he was a bus. He turned into a bus because of your development as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Oh, lack
It's a
thereof. Right.
coach's
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
coach's job to maximize every player they have on that roster and get the most out of them at any given time.
Yeah.
And so that iron on butter BS, I didn't buy it. I am excited about the addition of Kyle Williams. Man, that D line looked phenomenal against
Yes.
Clemson, and I'm always an advocate for getting alumni on staff
Mm-hmm.
because nobody's gonna know the culture, how to go apart wearing that purple and gold than the people that have lived it and breathed it and put their blood, sweat, and tears in it.
Right.
And so I don't know if you've ever noticed, but like early on, in the defensive staff rotation when Brian Kelly first got in, I was a huge advocate of you got to get Corey Raymond back. You got
Mm-hmm.
to get guys that have been around. I'm glad they got Blake Baker back. I think he's a phenomenal addition. But like I said, Kyle Williams, I think it starts with him. I think he's a huge advocate of what the culture is supposed to look like, and he's going to be there. If LSU goes far this year, I guarantee you, behind the scenes, a big reason why is because of Kyle Williams and his
Mm-hmm.
influence, not just on the D line, but it's gonna it's gonna spread to that defense. And I'm only hoping the best for them, and I'm wishing the best, and I'm always a call away if they ever need anything.
Right. That's awesome. All right, great. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media. And my other question with that is, you went 4-0 in your college picks last week,
I
and you
did.
said this is the last time I'm giving you degenerates a free ride. So where can we get this week's picks,
I
and where
did.
we send you the money to get those picks?
I did. You can follow me on X at Breiden Fehoko. Likewise on Instagram at Breiden Fehoko. And I'm thinking about doing a small college slate again this week, man. I got a lot of DMs. I got a lot of DMs last week about that. And so
Uh-huh.
a lot of people were like, man, one guy had messaged me. He's like, I knew you knew what you were saying, but I'm so mad at myself for not believing in you. And I said, you know what, man, lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot, but I'm gonna let that happen for you this week. And so I'm probably gonna drop a slate here as I do some research, just kind of
Okay.
see who's playing who, and
Okay.
just kind of let the fans and let the people that watch college football make a little money this weekend.
Right, right. No, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Braden, it was great catching up with you. The last thing I have, and Daniel's going to
Mhm.
laugh at me about this. What are your thoughts on Mardi Gras?
I,
Yeah,
I
I
I
know
love
a
it.
guy. I know a guy. So if you're ever interested in doing anything with Mardi Gras, let me know.
Man, I was in Louisiana my junior year. We're like chasing chickens and stuff. I love it. I love it. I mean, I was eating and Fat Tuesday, and I went down. To New Orleans. I went with a teammate to Mobile. I was in, not Hammond, but another city. I forgot. But dude, Mardi Gras was the best time. Like
Right.
I enjoyed. I probably had about a pool's worth of daiquiri, like between all my years at LSU. It was amazing. We
Right.
day drink, you know, go to crawfish boils, you know, go out at night, come back in the morning, try to sweat it out, and then the funniest part was when Mardi Gras was finished, we'd show back up at LSU and it'd be fourth quarter drills and everybody'd be there throwing up the first day of fourth quarter. But yeah, those are
Right.
great memories. I love Mardi Gras.
Excellent. All right. Well, so do we. All right, Breiden, we cannot thank you enough for taking time to come on with
Absolutely.
us. Thoroughly enjoyed everything and always rooting for you. I got your autographed picture here. I got your autographed helmet there. I got the sweatshirt behind me. I was like telling my fiance, I'm like, I don't know what to wear. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
I
I don't
love
want to
I
be,
love the I love the Aloha shirt. I love the
but
Aloha
I'm
shirt.
like, you know, like it's too, you know, like I don't want to be too fanboy, but I'm not a journalist, so I can be fanboy, but I don't want to be too, you know, and whatnot. No, so it's just
Don't
too funny.
mention it.
We sincerely appreciate it. Send our best to your family and everything. Just
Appreciate you.
God bless y'all and go Tigers.
Appreciate it. Steve, Daniel, thank you guys for today.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks so much.
All right.
All right.